Welcome to EDU 422, the Educator's Journey. I'm very sorry it's taken a bit of an age to get this Moodle page all working, but we're nearly there now, so I'm very excited about it. I'd like to tell you a few things about this course. The intensive is coming up in April, but I'd love you to do a fair bit of reading and thinking before then. First of all, I think that one of the key things about a successful educator's journey is their attitude and their practice of prayer. Let me just tell you about what I used to do, and I distinctly remember it in my first school in Australia. I used to go to school every day on a motorbike. Now, I don't any longer because I don't trust myself on the roads on a motorbike, but I distinctly remember on that journey I would go through Ephesians chapter 6 verse 10 to 20 and I'll put on the armour of God, because whether you like it or not, I think that a teacher's journey, a Christian teacher's journey, is actually a spiritual battle. So make sure you go into school with your armour on. The second thing, when you get into schools, you're going to meet all sorts of different denominational types. Some who are very strong on the denomination and some who don't really care. Let me encourage you to try and see past denominational barriers. They can really put a spanner in the works and prevent you from learning from other people that otherwise would be a real blessing. So go for unity. Go for the things that really mark out the centrality of the gospel rather than denominational differences. Okay? Next, I'd like to talk to you about personality types. Do you know what your type is? Have you studied Myers-Briggs? I suggest you have a look at it. Particularly, have you really sorted out whether you're an extrovert or an introvert? And it's not quite as black and white as sometimes it might seem. Have you worked out whether you're instinctively intuitive or whether you're a perceptive person that needs all the facts? And when you've sorted out what you are and understood what you are, then you'll be in a much better place to understand other people and get the best from them. My next point I would like to mention is, have you got a mentor? And by that I mean somebody or some people who've been there, done that, and really have got heaps of experience they can share with you. And on your part, are you willing to receive? A really good idea would be somebody who's not in the school or the family that you are in, but somebody that is independent, has nothing whatsoever to do with your work. See if you can fix up to see them, maybe once a month. Maybe have a coffee with them on Saturday morning, once a month, and just pour out your heart. Tell them the joys and the challenges and see what they have to say. And I wouldn't be surprised if you find that by even speaking those things out, you actually get answers. And the mentor just happens to be somebody there listening. That's often the case. I really would encourage you to seek out stories of good teachers that you know about. And by that I mean, whenever you come across an experienced teacher, maybe do this. Just ask them, could I interview you? I would love to make some notes from you. Now, you might feel a bit awkward about doing that, but once you've done it a few times, and I've done it a few times, it gets easier and easier. It just becomes part of your nature to want to learn what they've done and what's been successful for them. In that context, I'd really encourage you to get into biographies. Try and find biographies of teachers. Teachers in all sorts of settings, be it church, be it school, be it business, whatever. People who know that they're teachers and have written about it. It would be really fantastic for you to read up on teachers who've made a good job of it. In that context, I can't help but mention my father, who was a teacher all his life until he retired in whenever that was, about 20 years ago. So I grew up with somebody, and my mother was a teacher as well. So I was aware of how they did it and how they were successful in their role. My father was called Bert. I'm glad I wasn't. But I put so much of what he's taught me into my life. Another one would be my brother, elder brother. He was 11 years older than me, called Peter. He used to teach Spanish and French. I didn't teach Spanish and French, but I can still see the way that he used to teach. And I can't help but put the principles of life that he was operating into mine. So find those ones if you haven't already got them. And the ones you have, work on them and see if they can become more part of your life. Finally, in this little introduction, can I broach something else, particularly for primary teachers? Are you happy to have your children in class pray for you? Maybe all of them, maybe some of them. Just take, for example, the picture of you're coming to work one day, you've had a whole bunch of stress outside of school, maybe you've got family pressures. Don't try and completely disguise it. I'm not saying you should tell grade 2 everything that's happening in your life, but let them know how you're feeling. You're finding it tough, and maybe give them a bit of a hint. Well, if any of you wanted to, I'd really appreciate it if you prayed for me. Now, that would be an incredible step for those youngsters and for you. It would show that you're actually humbling yourself underneath a grade 5 student. They would feel so thrilled to be able to pray for you. I'm not saying you would do this every day, but maybe 2-3 times a term, that sort of length, that would be a really fantastic thing to do. So, I trust this has been an interesting, maybe insightful, I hope, introduction to EDU 422. Looking forward to seeing you on the intensive in April. Bye for now.